Hi, it's Jo again. So firstly, I'd like to say thank you to everybody that has liked and subscribed to my videos. Really, really appreciate it. So this week we're going to be concentrating on the cheekbones of the horse. But before we get into the video, I'd just like to acknowledge that I am aware that, there are some errors in my videos and, I'm learning as I go along. So I do apologise and just acknowledge that, and hope that these will get better and mistakes will reduce. But, who knows? Let's see how it goes. Thank you. Okay, so we're going to be working on the lower cheekbone today. So before I do my initial water wash underneath, so that I'm going to be working wet into wet, I need to do a very loose mix just so that I'm ready to go as soon as I've done this bit. With watercolour you do have to work very quickly, so I'm hoping that today you can actually see the photo. Okay, so let's get to it. So using I think it's about a 1-inch flat brush, the first thing we're going to do is just to wet this area. So this is just water. It's a little bit tinted because obviously I've been making my mix with it, but that's okay because it's all going to be covered up. So be fairly careful when you do this. Really follow your original pencil lines and try not to splash it anywhere. Okay, so when you sort of, you just bend down a little bit, you can see that there's a shine the whole way down. So I'm now going to change brushes. We're going to let the flat brush go and we're switching to a number 4 round brush. So I'm now going into this colour mix and we're going to start putting some colour on. So we're not dropping it in, so dropping would be like that. We're not going to be doing that. I need to sort of put the colour on and then I push it around with my brush, so my brush stays on the paper. And we want to cover this whole area in dark brown. So although the paint is fairly weak at the moment, when I put the next layer on, it'll be slightly thicker and it'll start not spreading as much. So when you put weak paint onto a water base, it will obviously spread as this is, and it probably goes, to places where you don't want it to go. But this gives me my first base that I can start then working from. Okay, we're nearly there. Okay, so that's the under base. So I've done the underlayer. So now what you're really doing is looking on my photograph to see which is the darkest areas. Where are the darkest areas? And I'm using a blend of sepia and lamp black, and both are Daniel Smith's. So we start at the top. And always, there's always a slight shadow when you get a horse with tack on. There's always a slight shadow next to wherever the straps are. So we start off by putting a really dark line next to the straps. I don't worry about going into the area where the leather straps are because I can overpaint that. Okay, and we've got a very dark area at the front here, so I can quite confidently paint very thick. So this is quite thick paint that's going on here, because you see how it's not running as much as when I put the very thick paint on. Sorry, the very thin paint. Okay. So you can see even at this point, I'm starting to get some form happening. So this is my lighter area. And I can see that there's a cheekbone coming up there. So I might well just see if I can put that in. And then I'm going to go just to some, I think, burnt sienna and sepia mix. And we'll just see if we can get the front of the cheekbone happening there, just so that you can see it. So we make that a little bit lighter. So what I'm doing is taking out, so I've just dampened my brush on a bit of kitchen towel. Okay, so now we're going to browns. We're going to leave the blacks out and we're going to go to some browns. And what I want to try and do is to get that hair effect. So again, like we were talking with the other areas of the head, you always do your brush strokes in the direction of the hair. And as I said, I'm just using the mix of the two colours. And because it's wet, so I'm painting wet into wet, so it's still blurring. So every paint mark I put down is blurring a little bit, but that's good. Because what you do is you just keep working on it and it's drying as I paint. But it still leaves little remnants of my every paint mark, every stroke I put down. And you just keep working round it. So you start redoing all those brush marks that you did earlier that might have got lost in the mix. Okay, we start darkening up again down here. But you can see it's slowly getting darker. So what's happening is that there's getting less water on here now. So as the balance is changing, as I'm putting more pigment, and so the percentage of water is getting less, so that my lines aren't disappearing as soon as I'm putting them on there. Because if you look at the photo, it's actually very dark. So I think I'm probably going to leave it there soon. Oh, I'll just do some of the little stray hairs at the bottom. Yep, I think I'm happy with the cheek. So I'm just going to switch brushes. We are going to go to number 1 round. Right, you see, most hairs, despite, however well they, whether they're trimmed or, whether they've been clipped around the face, they still have a few little stray hairs right at the bottom. And this type of thing adds a bit of authenticity, and, they look real. So can you see how I'm by using a tiny brush. So this is quite weak paint, because obviously if you paint too thick, it will go, claggy, and you won't get a nice smooth line. Okay. And using a small brush for the detail work is really useful. You can start doing any corrections. Because with painting, you can change it as you go along when you realise that you might not have done something correctly. Okay, so I'm just going to move the photograph so you can see how it looks as a whole. Now I may still have to go over that a little bit, the cheekbone, once it's dry, but you can see the process and how it was done. Okay, well that's it for today. So thank you very much, and I look forward to the next time. Thank you.